I told Denny I'd take the fall. We could go with any story he wanted, his call, whatever. I mean, after all, Stewie's hospital bills were huge, and Connie hadn't planned on going back to selling real estate till he started preschool. I mean, sure, she could find something now, but Denny, he needed to be the provider. I don't mean that as a put down. I mean, one thing that we agreed on, Denny was his family. He needed them to need him. And what the hell was I? This single, interloping putz in love with his best friend's wife. Everything, it shattered as soon as I put that name on it. I mean, I could call what I felt for Connie other things, sure. But why waltz around it? I was as much of a threat to the safety and security of Denny's home as a faceless serial killer strolling on the streets. I was more of a threat because I was on the inside. Me out of the picture, it would be a timely turnaround for Denny. We weren't looking at a hard time or anything. I'd simply take the rap and leave town. Move to Seattle or a place with mountains. I've always had a thing for mountains, though I've never seen them in person. But then I thought, Seattle, Jesus, doesn't it rain like every other effing day there? And the last thing I needed was more rain, because that summer, that's all there was. Just rain and more rain, endless rain, like something holding back had finally opened up. There was even a TV evangelist. It kept using this serial killer and all this rain, saying it was the beginning of the end, the deluge.
So Joey comes to me like Christ toting his own cross on the shoulder to take the whole rap. No way, I told him. I'd kill him first. Even had to beat the living shit out of him. Like the old days, just to prove my point.
Denny and me had a little scuffle. I was getting the worst of it as usual, so I pounded Denny on his sore leg. I never heard him scream like that before. He went down like a wet rag. We were outside the house and had slapped each other around quite a bit. Grass burns, bruises, mud from head to foot, our clothes ripped to shreds. I saw the hole in his thigh through his torn pants. Whatever he did to his leg was infected. Worse. His thigh was green and black from knee to his hip. I tried to get him to the doctor, but he took off in his car. The hospital people called right after that and said that Stewie had a complication. Some clotting that they needed to relieve, and they needed Denny and Connie down at Masonic immediately to discuss the procedure, the risks, and sign a consent. Denny gone, Connie asked me to come with her. That was the first night that I kissed her. It was like all this stress pushed us together. I don't know how else to say it. The worst thing I could have done, I did at the worst possible time, and I just let it happen, and I blamed it on the rain. Everything was so oppressive and gray, and Connie was the only daylight that I'd seen in weeks, I swear. I called everywhere looking for Denny, no luck. There was nothing more we could do at Masonic. I mean, one signature was enough to do okay the procedure on Stewie, and after they did it, it was limbo again. Waiting and more waiting till he got off the anesthesia. So this nurse came out and told us, she said, "We won't know anything until morning. You might as well go home and rest, Mr. and Mrs. Lombardo." Neither Connie or I corrected her. We just walked out of the hospital, hand in hand, Noel asleep on my shoulder. After we put Noel to bed, we kissed outside his closed door, the same place that we first held each other. I didn't start it, she didn't start it. We both just fell into it and couldn't let go. She took me by the hand to the bedroom, Denny's bedroom, Denny's bed, and it wasn't just lust. We needed to be inside something other than our own skins that night. Curled around each other listening to the rain drumming on the roof, neither one of us could sleep. There was a bright flash of lightning and I shot up in bed. I swore that I saw Denny standing in the bedroom doorway. I got dressed and I looked around, but I didn't see anything. Connie thought I was crazy. Den was limping so bad lately, we would have heard him come in. She told me to come back to bed, but I couldn't. I went to look for him. I had an idea where he might be. When I got to the Dan Ryan overpass by the old neighborhood where we grew up, sure enough, there was Denny. He was sitting in a puddle, soaked to the skin, watching northbound traffic. He was wearing his Range revolver. Even when I sat down next to him, he wouldn't have looked at me. He reached into his lap and tossed me a thick wad of money. A lot of money. I don't know how much. I didn't count it, but it was a thick stack of hundreds. He told me,
Go buy an attorney.
where'd you get this?
I got it.
The coke and the heroin in the trunk. I thought them bangers that we busted. Denny never brought it in. He never logged it as evidence. He was still doing the morphine. He had a bottle next to him, too. Fifth of JD, half empty.
Half full. Taillights in some of these late models glare at you like the eyes of demons, Joey. Think you'd know the eyes of a demon if you saw one?
We didn't know, Denny. First things we got to do to face this thing is let ourselves off the hook. We didn't know.
But we should know, Joey. We should know the eyes of a demon when we see one.
We can't know. How can we know?
It is our job. Otherwise, we end up with demons for friends.
Were you home tonight, Den?
Home? I have been home in hours. Hours and hours, days, weeks, months, years.
You saw us together, didn't you?
Saw who together?
You were in the doorway, Denny. Don't fuck around, all right? I saw you.
My ears, please. I'm sensitive.
We sat there in the rain for, an hour? Longer, not a word. Just Denny mumbling the makes and models of passing cars under his breath. When he spotted the Le Mans from the overpass, he hobbled off to his car and I followed him. Denny had his Plymouth ditched in the northbound embankment. I jumped in the passenger door just as he gunned the motor.
They want heroes, Joey? Be a hero. That's the way to get reinstated. Superhuman. That's what they want us to be. Able to tell good from evil in a blink. That's what they want, and that's what they're going to get.
He's going on like this, weaving through traffic, topping 90 in pursuit of this model Le Mans with taillights that he swears glow at him like eyes of a demon. I'm trying to slow him down, but how could you? Denny overtook the late model Le Mans and motioned it over. There was a kid at the wheel, gangbanger brat in a Raiders cap. He could hardly see over the wheel. Denny knew him from somewhere.
It was Willie.
On suspension, we had no badges, no squad car, no siren to show we're cops. All Denny could think to do to make his point more emphatic was to wave Willie over with his Range revolver.
Willie saw the gun and veered off west.
Denny stuck with him for another mile or more, then he forced him off the road, and Willie flipped the Le Mans in a forest preserve cul-de-sac.
Then bolted out of the wreck into the woods.
He was wearing one of those gangbanger warm-up jackets, had something tucked inside it in the front.
It's a 44.
Denny waved me to stay behind the car when we chased Willie into the forest preserve.
Joey was unarmed.
He didn't want me hurt.
Willie tripped and turf-nosed first in a clearing.
He was messing with whatever he had in his coat when Denny caught up with him and he ordered him, hands out of the pockets, lay face down on the ground.
Willie was scared shitless.
He was doing what Denny said, but all of a sudden, he unzipped part of his coat and he reached in. And I'm sorry, you just can't do that around a cop.
Not a fast, jerky motion like that.
It's training, not choice.
It's training, not choice.
It triggers a cop.
There's
There's no time to think. Life or death, sometimes you just have to react.
I didn't mean to kill him. Logical conclusion. It's a piece in his coat, right? A 44. I linked the car to the shooting. Willie to Walter. Ballistics on the gun will prove that the last missing piece. Case closed. But Joey, he goes to Willie. He opens his coat and there's his fucking puppy inside it.
Who would have thought he's running from the law with a fucking puppy?
Joey takes the puppy, and I shove him aside, searching Willie for a piece.
Willie was clean. Denny gets real panicky, limped back to the overturned Le Mans. He practically stripped it. After he popped open the trunk with a tire iron, Denny squirmed in and found what he wanted.
44 Magnum. 44 Magnum.
There were other guns stashed in the trunk too. But the 44 was what Denny wanted most. He tucked it down Willie's pants.
And sure enough, tucked down Willie's pants is a fucking 44.
Denny was a madman that night. Like a man in flames. He even wagged his range revolver at me and told me,
"Beat it. It's my kid was hurt. This is my fucking collar."
I walked out of the forest preserve with the puppy and flagged a cab. I went straight to Connie with the whole story. "Enough is enough," she said, and she got right on the phone to Dickerson. I just sat there at the kitchen table. Denny's kitchen table. Noel and Hines playing with the puppy on the floor in the living room. Denny's living room. The front window still boarded up. And sitting there, I just listened to her tell Dickerson everything. I betrayed my friend again. And I felt ashamed because I was so relieved that I wouldn't have to go to Seattle and confront all those mountains and all that rain. With Denny out of the picture, I could move right in. I invested in that family. Whole parts of myself in Noel, in Stewie, in Connie. They gave me a strength that I never had. Made something of me that I never was. And I belonged to them. Sitting there that night, I started to think that they belonged to me. That I had more of a claim to that family than Denny ever did.
Ballistics matched the 44 to the same gun that fired through the front window. Registration in the glove compartment provided the paper trail for the brilliant dickheads to follow. The car was registered to Willie's brother, Walter. So I land this drive-by delinquent, bring in a cache of stolen guns, semi-automatic weapons, AK-47s and shit, and what does Dickerson slap me with? The token shitfuck tells me I'm under arrest. For what? I ask him. For Christ's sake, Dickerson, I'm doing my job. He reminds me I'm on suspension, so I remind that prick my fucking kid's life is hanging by a thread, and you're arresting me? I'm out busting my ass, risking my life, making this city safer and more a secure place to live, and you're arresting me? The man's logic is totally fucked. He's got kids of his own. I'm out there being a fucking hero, and he puts the fucking bite on me? Walking out, I told him, fuck him. His fucking quota system and his family. And you know what he says to me? "We know where to find you, Dan." Son of a bitch. So, just to lay low, I go to Rhonda's. She is stabbed to death in her bed. Her baby's taped up inside a plastic garbage bag in the little bed I brought her. I knew the second I saw it that this is Walter Lorenz's handiwork. He did it to get back at me for muscling in on what's his for Willie. But when I finally tracked down that pimp shit, I chased him as best I could. My leg couldn't take much weight. I followed him down an alley and out into the street. I ran into a couple of cops there, Varallo and Meese, friends of mine. I've known them for years. Well, Walter's pissing his pants, asking Varallo and Meese to protect him. I tell him what Walter did to Rhonda and her kid. They don't want to hear it. They think I'm too ripped up. They got orders to bring me in. So the dumb shit starts reciting. They start reciting me my Mirandas. Walter's standing there shouting, "You popped my brother, greaseball. You gotta fry, motherfucker." That was just a reflex. That's all it was. I grabbed the gun out of Varallo's holster and pumped 3 chambers worth point blank into Walter Lorenz's before any of us could blink. I just stood around dead for a second or two and stunned. I turned the gun on Varallo and Mies and limped back down the alley to my car. Protocol, they should have shot me. At least wounded me, but neither Varallo or Mies would shoot, as I was not only a friend of theirs, I was a cop. Suspended, but I was still a cop. A cop simply does not shoot another cop.
When Connie heard Denny pull in, she told me I better go. Connie was worried about how Denny would take it when she told him that she called Dickerson. I told her that was exactly the reason I better stay. Denny walked in all smiles. He wrapped Connie up in a hug, told her that she can sleep nights again because he caught the gunman who shot out their window and did what he did to Stewie. Connie just took it cold, and Denny was left hanging like he was humping a post. He let her go and glared at me. Something new in his eyes. A wicked flicker. Connie told him I told her about the 44. He already knew. He knew Dickerson knew. He knew the approaching siren was a car sent for him. He knew about Connie and me. He knew everything. I could see it work on his face, and the final proof drove home when he ordered me out of his house. I stood my ground.
This is my house, my wife, my family. You got no fucking right to interfere. No fucking right to even be here.
Noel ran to Connie, hung onto her leg, both of them standing behind me, battle lines drawn.
Get out.
Denny could always beat me in a fight. I told you that. Usually I could get a lick or two of my own in, which was always a mistake with Denny because when he fought, he was like an animal. Show any resistance and he guns you down with double the fury. And as a kid, I used to just let him pound on me till he knew he had the upper hand. He'd eventually quit. But it wasn't only Connie and Noel cowering behind me in the kitchen that stopped him dead in his tracks that night. It was something in me. I finally had something worth fighting for, and I wasn't about to roll over. So we lifted Varallo's service revolver to my head and cocked it.
Get out.
Shoot me if you like, Den. Just let Connie and Noel out of this.
Okay.
He pulled the trigger. It just clicked. Where are you going with this, Denny?
I can't protect him anymore, Joey.
I know, Denny, I know. What?
It's everywhere, Joey, you know? Mama's dead.
I know, Denny, I know.
No, I found her, Jay. Stabbed to death in her bed.
I know.
Her baby, Joey, her baby's dead too. It's tied up in a fucking garbage bag. I did it.
You didn't do it.
I did it.
It was Walter. Den?
It was me, Joey.
No.
I was with her.
I could have stopped this.
No.
Yeah, I should have.
I popped his kid brother. I pissed him off. I could have capped him long before any of this went down, before Stewie got hurt, but I didn't. It was all my doing.
You can't take responsibility for it all, Denny.
I gotta.
Don't you fucking do this.
It's a family, man.
No.
You gotta.
No, Den.
I brought it home with me.
Don't.
I can't wash it off.
Don't. Denny.
It's infecting everything. It's in me, Joey.
No.
It is me. You take care of him for me, Joey.
We take care of each other, Den.
They're all I got. All I ever had.
Back to back. Haven't we always?
Take them.
I picked up Noel, led Connie out. I looked back at Denny in the dark. He was reloading Varallo's service pistol. That was me a month ago. That was me not knowing which way to turn that thing. That was me blasted senseless with no light, no family, no nothing.
Hey, Joey. 10-1, Dickerson reinstates you, and you make detective for bringing down the bad guy single-handed.
Come on, Denny. Are you coming?
Back to back. Jay, Starsky and Hutch. It's like the old days.
2 steps after the screen door clacked behind Connie, me, and Noel, I heard the shot from inside. The department didn't honor Denny's pension. There was no life insurance either because it was a suicide. When I took Connie to make arrangements for Denny's funeral, we decided to have him cremated. I don't think he would have liked the idea of lying to rot in some cold plot of dirt for all eternity any more than I did. Cremation at least saved us the cost of having his face reconstructed. He popped the gun just under his chin. No way in hell I wanted to say what I said at my reinstatement hearing, but Connie told me, he's dead, Joey. He's dead. Denny's dead. Let him do something good for us. He would have wanted it that way. Bible school, I remember. Father Joel, he'd keep us waiting. You know, he's busy training altar boys or some shit. And while we were waiting, down the ravine by the train tracks behind the church, Denny would make up these games to pass the time, you know, for fun, for nothing. Denny invented rock tag. He called it Last Man Standing. Plenty of rocks handy for ammo around the track bed. The object of the game, of course, was to be the last man standing. It was Denny, ended up taking the fall for everything. Like he predicted, I came out smelling like a rose. Made detective the next round of promotions. I did not think it would look good, but Connie told me she didn't give a damn what looked good or not. She needed me, so I moved in. I can't say I wasn't happy to clear out of my one room, lay claim to some home cooking. Stewie was home from Masonic about a month after Denny died. He'll be okay, they said, with special ed, some rest, time to heal. The rain finally let up. Everything looked and smelled cleansed. Finally got around to replace the family room window, too. It's strange the things you gotta lose to gain this much. I mean, Denny was a part of me. It's gone forever. Out walking Hines and Hines Jr. at night, I go by the house from the street, see them lit up and framed in the big new family room window. Connie and the kids. My family. It's a simple picture. And I know what Denny felt seeing it. I would do anything for them. Anything.